First, I'll start out just with energetically because I think that that's just like a huge umbrella for all of these
Yeah.
things is that women go through so many transformative experiences throughout their lifespan. It's like with everything that you just said, puberty into fertility and pregnancy and birth and postpartum and perimenopause and menopause. It's like we are always changing and transforming.
Hey, beautiful. Welcome to Naturally Empowered Living, your safe space to guiding you on your unapologetic self awakening journey. This is your weekly sanctuary for waking up from autopilot and transforming the way you approach life through the power of meditation, energetics, and root cause therapy. It is my mission to help you heal unprocessed emotions and release stuck energies by alchemizing your struggle cycles into opportunities for deep self love, awareness, trust, and connection, to return to your innate essence of being, stepping back into your energy of alignment. Because here, we honor all parts of ourselves, the messy and the magic, the shadows and the light, embodying all parts that make you, you. So if you are ready to get to the root of cultivating real change, get cozy, grab your journal and maybe favorite crystals, and let's discover our power within together. Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Naturally Empowered Living podcast. This is your host, guide, and mentor in all things energetics, emotions, and self awakening, Jenna Smith. And today's guest, I am so excited to learn from. Just she brings such a unique blend from what I know of her already, just of science and nature and wisdom. And I'm just so excited for our conversation. So, Dr. Anna Sitkoff is a naturopathic doctor and medicinal mushroom expert. She is a primary care physician in Washington State. And if you just like a naturopathic doctor, primary care physician, like that's like what I'm after, like for myself and my family, right? So I'm just so excited to talk about just holistic health. And she is also the co-founder and chief science officer of Lucidum Medicinals, a company crafting evidence-based mushroom supplements using bioavailable fruiting body extracts. Just everything about this, it just seems so pure. Okay, I can't wait. So Anna, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. So let's dive in and talk about you a little bit. Just, what brought you to this path that you're on today? Go as far back as you feel called, and just what led you to, be the naturopathic doctor and the primary care physician and all the things.
Yeah. I mean, from a really young age, I was exposed to natural medicine. My parents were always seeking alternative healthcare in addition to their kind of regular allopathic doctors, but always going to acupuncturists and homeopaths and herbalists and naturopaths. And they both had chronic illness when I was growing up. So I think that, they sought so much help there that it was always just kind of interesting to me, but also just like very normal to
Yeah.
me. It's like I was like late in getting my period when I was like 12. I
Mhm.
hadn't started menstruating yet. And like my mom's first place she took me was like an acupuncturist, which also it's like normal if you're not menstruating at age 12
Right.
in a lot of situations. But anyway, I had some other issues going on that were due to like blood stagnation and stuff that I don't think other doctors would have really paid attention to.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's like my first job was at a health food store. It was always just like part of the culture that I grew up in, very like crunchy granola household.
Mhm.
And I first became really interested in nutrition, and that's kind of what I studied in undergrad. And while studying nutrition, I became more and more exposed to herbal medicine. There were different herbalists in my life, and it was just kind of this whole realm of knowledge that I just really wanted. I
Yeah.
would meet herbalists and just feel like, I want that. I want to know that.
Mhm.
I want to know how to heal myself and my loved ones with medicine from the earth. And it's, such a good complements nutrition very well.
Yeah.
And my father had chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and he had gone through chemotherapy multiple times and was seeing an integrative Chinese medical doctor who was associated with his oncology team at UCSF, and he was prescribed mushrooms for his like supportive care. And that was kind of my first real introduction to medicinal
Yeah.
mushrooms. I had been familiar with psychedelic mushrooms and um, at edible or more like culinary mushrooms prior to that, but that was really like piqued my interest in looking deeper and also realizing that that was just like a huge hole in my knowledge.
Yeah.
And after undergrad, I moved to Seattle and I was working in an apothecary as an herbalist, and I just kept getting this kind of like nudge from the mushrooms. Like I needed to learn more. I had the opportunity to start teaching classes at this apothecary, and I decided to just teach classes about mushrooms because that was kind of the best way for me to learn about them. So I would just kind
Uh,
of deep dive. I started a blog at that time and was writing a lot about them and just gathering all of the information in the world really that I could. And I've just continued to do that. It's like over
yeah.
10 years later, and I still feel just completely obsessed. And I also just like working as an herbalist and studying mushrooms and teaching, I just kind of wanted more. And it felt like going to naturopathic medical school was kind of going to be the best way to do that, where I could use all of this knowledge that I've already accumulated and then gain even more from like a more medical perspective and clinical perspective and how to utilize mushrooms and herbs and nutrition and help, yeah, help patients that way.
It's amazing. It's so beautiful. Like what you said, like you've been at this like for over a decade, even longer, like going back to your
Yeah.
upbringing. Like when you know, you know. And we talk about that so much on the show in so many different facets, but your career, your relationships, just your passions and hobbies, like when you know, and like knowing that discernment within you, it's just so beautiful to hear other people's stories. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, it's been like a deep knowing, I feel like throughout my entire life. Like I'm basically the same person as I was when I was 8. And
That's
I'm like,
incredible. That's so huge.
think the same things are like very cool. I'm like, yeah, like plants and mushrooms and frogs, still awesome. Yeah.
Love that. But just think how, not to like take this on a dark route, but like just think of how many people aren't, like they lost themselves or, in so many different areas or avenues within their life. That's very beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I've been very fortunate that I accumulate people in my life as well
Yeah.
that help to feed that
Yeah.
passion. So,
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
So, I mean, bringing in your upbringing, and you shared a little bit, in your early teen, adolescent, but when we look as like women's health as a whole, from upbringing to puberty to then, possibly fertility and postpartum, how can your like apothecary or just like medicinal mushrooms play a role in supporting these different phases of ourselves, physically, emotionally, energetically?
So many ways. First, I'll start out just with energetically because I think that that's just like a huge umbrella for all of these
Yeah.
things is that women go through so many transformative experiences throughout their lifespan. It's like with everything that you just said, puberty into fertility and pregnancy and birth and postpartum and perimenopause and menopause. It's like we are always changing and transforming, and anything that's going to help support us through transformative experience is going to be helpful. And on an energetic level, and I always talk about mushrooms as the doulas of nature, and
Mhm.
it's like their role in the environment is really to facilitate transformation. They're like breaking down dead material so that it can become new life.
Mhm.
And so on that level, basically all mushrooms can be supportive there on an energetic
Yeah.
level. I think especially about the polypore mushrooms in that realm. So those are mushrooms that they don't have gills. So most people, when they think of mushrooms, they think about the typical kind of gilled mushroom. So that's like under surface of the mushroom cap. Polypores just have a smooth surface. It looks almost like skin.
Hmm.
And reishi mushroom, the most famous of them all, is a great
Yep.
example of that. Turkey tail is another polypore. There's a whole group of the genus Fomitopsis. All of those mushrooms are really, I think of more for like energetically transformative experiences. Um, on a physiological level, there's a lot of mechanisms at play. And so we can just kind of go through from puberty to
Yeah.
menopause
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
talk about that. So when I think about puberty, I can't stress enough the importance of avoiding endocrine disruptors as much as possible. It's like young women and young boys, like, please do not drink water from plastic. Try to avoid cans as much as possible. There's like everyone loves drinking bubbly water out of cans. It's not good. You
Mhm.
know, the lining of cans is likely to contain BPA, and endocrine disruptors can really disrupt an already kind of erratic hormonal system during puberty, and they're really hard to rid of the body, for the body to rid of them.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of one of the most important things first is like be aware of what you're putting in your body. Endocrine disruptors, for those listeners who aren't aware, are things you're going to find them in plastics like BPA, like I mentioned. Phthalates are an example, and those are going to be like fragrances. So any kind of candle that has fragrance that's not just pure essential oil, pesticides, herbicides. These compounds act similar to different hormones in the body, mostly like estrogen,
Mhm.
and they can cause symptoms of excess estrogen. They can also just mess up your own normal estrogen levels.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely like very important. And some mushrooms, I mean, there's a lot of like preclinical studies and in vitro research showing that mushrooms might be really helpful to actually help your body detox of endocrine disruptors. In the environment, they're bioaccumulators. And so, what that means is that when mushrooms are growing, if there's like heavy metals in the ground or in the tree or different chemicals, the mushrooms will actually take that up. So, that's a reason to, know where your mushrooms are coming from.
Yeah.
But they can also degrade plastic, which, like, not a lot of things can do that, but
Right.
mushrooms can do that.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. But yeah, other than kind of avoiding the endocrine disruptors, I mean, with puberty, it's very similar physiologically to perimenopause, where it's like your hormones are really kind of they're not balanced yet. It's normal for them to be erratic. It's normal for estrogen to have its ups and downs.
Mhm.
And so any way to support estrogen metabolism and detoxification is going to help support a person going through that process. And mushrooms can be really helpful basically in all three phases of estrogen detoxification from the liver to the gut. Um, Really the most significant benefit would be through gut microbiome health and regulation. So all mushrooms in their cell wall, they have a few different kinds of sugars, but kind of two main types of what's called polysaccharides. And those polysaccharides, the beta glucans and the chitin, they act as prebiotics and they feed your good gut bacteria. And the more good gut bacteria that you have, the healthier your what's called the estrobolome is going to be. And that's like the part of your intestinal microbiome, the gut bacteria that is involved in estrogen detoxification and metabolism. I think, I don't know how many like 12 and 13-year-olds like to eat mushrooms.
Right.
But if you can get more mushrooms into your preteen and teenager, like the better that will be for them long term.
So a question, just to piggyback off what you just said. You mentioned like reishi mushrooms, like culinary. What is a culinary mushroom like that you would buy off the store? What is that called? Like what kind of mushroom is that?
Yeah, so culinary mushroom, there are culinary mushrooms that are medicinal,
Hmm.
and not all medicinal mushrooms are culinary mushrooms.
Okay.
For example, so culinary mushrooms that you could find in the grocery store or most grocery stores, like shiitake mushroom or oyster mushroom, maitake mushroom, lion's mane, which you're like, oh, that's an overlap there.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, even portobello mushrooms have some medicinal activity because they have that same mushroom cell wall with
Mhm.
the polysaccharides that are going to act as prebiotics and feed the good gut bacteria.
Mhm.
Um, and then we have the kind of strictly medicinal mushrooms that aren't culinary. And the only reason they're not culinary is because they're too woody to eat. Like
Okay.
reishi mushroom is that like it's a polypore. It has a really it's pretty tough. Like if you try to take a bite out of it, it's like biting into wood,
Okay.
basically. And so those mushrooms need to be processed differently. You're not going to eat them, but
Hmm.
you're going to extract the medicinal compounds from them and then either drink a broth or a tea or take a tincture or a powdered mushroom extract.
Hmm.
Whereas the cool thing about culinary medicinal mushrooms like lion's mane is that you can cook up lion's mane and eat it and get all of the medicine that way.
So interesting because I've only had lion's mane in a supplement, pill form.
Mhm.
But I've seen it, but I've never known how to handle it.
Yeah, and you can literally just chop it up and like fry it in a frying pan with some butter and salt, and it would be delicious.
Sounds so good. Well, what is that? Morel mushrooms. That's like a big
Mhm.
thing where we live, where, you
Nice.
go look for the morel mushrooms. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say a few other, I think, important things just when we're talking about puberty is like the stress of puberty. And mushrooms, specifically reishi mushroom, would be very helpful for just like nervous system support during puberty, during any of the transformational life
Yeah.
stages that we've talked about.
Yep.
One of the main hormonal issues that I see in my practice, and I think is kind of becoming its own epidemic, is PCOS.
I was going to look
And
that up. Yes.
yeah, and there's a specific subtype of PCOS it's called adrenal PCOS. And so that's kind of more triggered by high stress. And that's when you're just going to see elevated DHEA levels, which DHEA is an androgenic hormone that's made in the adrenal glands
Hmm.
and increases in stress. And what I see with a lot of my older female patients that have PCOS is that if they have this DHEA subtype, it's really common that they were going through some kind of intense psychological stress while they were going through puberty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so anything to, support the nervous system while you're going through this hormonal transition, I think is really important.
Oh my gosh, of course. And I mean, now speaking to, because you just shared so much information, and as I'm sure that you can relate to, like looking at different supplements or like it could be overwhelming, like what should I get? This is what I'm struggling with. So, like making this as easily digestible, let's say for our listeners, like where can we start? What should we be looking for, like categorically, if that's even a word? But
Uh-huh.
like if I'm struggling with gut health or nervous system regulations, stress,
Mhm.
hormones, how like because you mentioned a few different things, like reishi is good for this. And so can you kind of
Mhm.
dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so if you're looking to use reishi specifically for nervous system support, typical dose would be 2 grams per day
Mhm.
of an extract. So you would want to look for a powdered extract. That's going to be kind of the best way for you to get all of the medicinal components
Mhm.
of reishi mushroom.
Mhm.
That reishi powdered extract will also help with your gut microbiome. Um, so, that's kind of an all-in-one. Everyone loves reishi mushroom.
Yeah.
It's also true that I think mushrooms work synergistically and often, yeah, so they work kind of better together. You don't want to
Yeah.
look for a formula that has, I think, more than 5 mushrooms is you're not going to get any kind of therapeutic amount of each individual mushroom when there's that many. So I'd limit the formula to 5 when you're looking for different formulas. Um, I also think, though, that just eating mushrooms is probably the best way to support the gut microbiome. So aiming to have a serving at least a serving of mushrooms 3 to 5 days a week
Yeah.
would be great. And then, of course, also including some kind of fermented food, at least a quarter cup of kefir or sauerkraut or kimchi, even tempeh. Um, Especially tempeh actually would be kind of a good supportive fermented food when you're dealing with any kind of hormonal shift
Hmm.
because tempeh is fermented soy. I mean, a lot, yeah, that's like a whole other conversation, but a lot of the myceliated grain products are basically tempeh. But tempeh contains something called isoflavones, which are phytoestrogens. A lot of people are afraid of phytoestrogens. They're actually very helpful, especially for any kind of estrogen imbalance. They can help to kind of decrease the amount of more inflammatory or like active estrogens in the system because they just kind of slightly bind the estrogen receptor.
Mhm.
So, yeah, as far as, gut microbiome health and estrogen regulation, fermented foods, tempeh would be a
Yeah.
good one to include. Yeah, did I just answer your question?
You did. Yeah, it was basically just a rundown because we talked, well, lion's
Yeah.
mane is like, is that nervous system also? Because that's always like with brain and focus and like,
Yeah, lion's mane is always talked about as just like the nervous system mushroom. Traditionally is really used for gut support. So it's a
interesting.
wonderful anti-inflammatory for the gastrointestinal system. Yeah, it can also, because it has those polysaccharides, it's really going to help to support the gut microbiome. And I think that part of why it has also the kind of brain supportive qualities, other than all of the known like compounds like the adenosines and the hericinones that stimulate nerve growth factor and all of that, is that there is a gut-brain axis. And through supporting your gut, through decreasing inflammation in the gut and feeding the healthy gut microbiome, you're really going to be supporting a healthy nervous system as well.
You just touched on a whole other conversation that we can dive into because there is such a bridge in your gut health. You know, you're like, oh, like let me just take probiotics, prebiotics, but there is so much in your gut health that what you just said, like that aids within your nervous system and everything.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for saying
Uh,
that.
yeah.
That's a whole other conversation. And this is something else too that would be a whole other conversation. But talk to me a little bit because something that I don't know if you would say it's like trending right now, but I believe this would be considered a psychedelic. Is that the word? Like psilocybin. Talk to me
Mhm.
about that. Is that
Yeah.
solely because like in like the thing that you hear is like the microdosing.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, is it considered medicinal even though it's considered psychedelic
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yes. So psilocybin is one of the active compounds in the psilocybe genus of mushrooms.
all right.
So yeah, yeah. So this is a common confusion. Psilocybin itself is not a mushroom, but
Got
it's just one of the psychoactive compounds in psilocybe
Got it.
mushrooms. Psilocybe cubensis is kind of what most people are familiar with
Okay.
and what most people would be taking. And then there's a bunch of different subtypes of that. But it kind of fits into the category of medicinal slash toxic. When I think about mushrooms, there's kind of like culinary, medicinal, and toxic. There's a
Okay.
lot of overlap in all
Okay.
of those areas. Um, but the psilocybin itself, that active compound, is, I think, absolutely medicinal. I mean, there's just more and more research every month coming out about how it can be helpful for everything from like cluster headaches to anxiety and depression and PTSD, and even just like coming to terms with death at the end of life.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, there's amazing medicinal effects of psilocybe mushrooms and psilocybin itself. As far as like microdosing goes, yeah, anything that has, I think, anything that has an impact on your health, I'd say in a positive way, would be considered medicine.
Yeah.
And some people really have amazing results with just taking a very low dose of psilocybe mushrooms.
Mhm.
It can help certain people get off of antidepressants if that's what they're trying to do. It can help with focus for those who have ADHD or ADD. Um, yeah, there's a whole lot of potential there. And then there's, of course, too, it's like, talking about hormone health and immune health. I mean, that's this whole other important topic with mushrooms is how they impact the immune system. But there is the psychoneuroendocrinology and psychoneuroimmunology. So it's how, your psychology can impact your nervous system and so your hormonal system as well as your immune system.
Hmm.
And there's not a lot of things that exist that can rewire the brain.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially for like people who have experienced some kind of trauma or adverse childhood event, any kind of um, PTSD, complex PTSD is like if there's potential in a substance to kind of help you rewire, and that can have amazing downstream effects by supporting hormones and
Yeah.
immune system.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I've just dove into a lot of research personally with because I work with the ACE, test as you just said. And just addiction and PTSD and mental health as a whole. And
Hmm.
not that I prescribe anything, but it's more so I work very somatically in terms of the somatic release. But obviously, like I like to do my own research and like I've noticed an uptick in the talk of the use of psilocybin and how it's helped with, help getting off anti depressants and anxiety, helping in anxiety and the PTSD and complex PTSD. So yeah, I was just very curious to see your kind of thoughts about that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of in my mind, it's just like another medicinal mushroom.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I mean, when you say toxic, you obviously use it as categories, but I've always, like, I think back to my childhood, like everything in moderation. Like, of
Mhm.
course, like even having too many vitamins, like, isn't going to be good for you. Having too much of anything isn't going to be good for you.
Having too much water isn't going to be good
Yeah,
for you. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's very, very true. So thank you.
Yeah.
So tell us about now your company. Like you sell these supplements. If we go to your website, are they like categorized or kind of just give us the
Yeah,
rundown of your company?
yeah. So I started this company, Lucidum Medicinals, with my husband, who's also a naturopathic doctor, and one of our best friends, Mikhail. And the intention with the company was to have mushroom supplements that are kind of in the right amounts,
Hmm.
using the right mushrooms for the right body systems, kind of to fill in the gaps that I was seeing in practice. Basically, it was like when I was in doing clinical rounds in medical school, a lot of my supervisors were kind of looking to prescribe mushrooms, and they would come to me and ask like, "What mushroom company should I use?" And there wasn't the right one. It was
Yeah,
always like, oh, like this one's okay, but like I wish that this mushroom was in that formula, or I wish that it was like prepared a little bit differently.
totally.
So I created that. And so right now we have three different formulas. We have an immune system focused formula, brain and nerves formula, and then a respiratory system formula called lungs.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they
What
all, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like age range and like you were gonna say they all what. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So they all they have different combinations of mushrooms in
Mhm.
different amounts. That's based off of either historical use or more like current clinical research showing like what dosages tend to be the most helpful.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're kind of I mean, the initially I just wanted something to prescribe to my own patients, and that's great that I have that now. And
Yeah.
also just like getting quality mushroom supplements out into the world feels like a purpose of mine. Or just
Yeah.
like in addition to just like educating people about mushroom medicine. Yeah, I think you started to say something about like age range, and
Yeah.
I
Like,
think
because we were talking about puberty and then obviously,
yeah.
so like when can we start taking these supplements? Like if we went to your website or something.
Yeah, anytime. So yeah, people can go to the Lucidum Medicinals website, or if they go to drannasitkoff.com, I think there's like a little tab that
Yeah.
has a shop button or something. Yeah, these formulas are really safe for all stages
Yeah.
of life. There's not a lot of situations where mushrooms are contraindicated.
Hmm.
There are some kind of interesting scenarios that are mostly theoretical, but I should just name a few of them
Yeah.
since we're talking about women's hormones and things like that. So with lion's mane, there is theoretical thought that you should not take lion's mane if you have endometriosis.
Hmm.
With endometriosis, in certain cases, there's already an increase in nerve growth factor, and that's part of what is kind of increasing pain pathways and like why people are in so much pain with that condition. And so taking something that's going to increase nerve growth factor, even though the evidence with lion's mane, I mean, it's showing that it increases that in the brain, there is possibility that it could also increase that in endometrial lesions and increase
Hmm.
pain sensitivity there. So that's just something for people to be aware of.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, my formulas are very safe and tolerated really well. Kind of going back to like why I even like got interested in mushrooms was really like with how mushrooms can help to support the immune system and be adjunct therapy during chemotherapy and other kinds of cancer care. And so, I mean, I see a lot of oncology patients, and that's kind of some of my favorite medicine to practice is to help support people through chemotherapy.
Hmm.
And so our immune formula is kind of built for that specifically to kind of help keep people's immune system strong while they're going through that process. And there's some cool evidence with how mushrooms can, kind of those polysaccharides that feed the good gut bacteria, they also stimulate your antiviral and anti-cancer immune mechanisms. So they're increasing natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells, and they can even make kind of the cancer cells more sensitive to chemotherapy while protecting your healthy cells.
It's amazing. I used to be a radiation therapist working in oncology.
Oh,
So like just hearing you talk about that, I'm just like, oh, bless. Like
yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's beautiful that you, I mean, take that route also. So thank you so much just for sharing everything. I'll link all the sites, your personal website and your company's website in the show notes. And if anyone else wants to contact you, do you have socials? Or is that
Yeah.
your website?
Yeah. Dr. Anna Sitkoff, or just Dr. Anna Sitkoff is my Instagram. And yeah, people can sign up for my newsletter through
Awesome.
my website and yeah, contact me that way as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time and just the knowledge and the wisdom. Like this was so, I'm just like soaking this all in. I love talking science and medical and merging it all. And
Yeah. We could have talked forever.
I know, I
So much
feel like
more
I
to say.
I could have talked to you forever. So I will link again our listeners, everything in the show notes. And thank you again for being here with us today, Anna.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Until next week, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. We are sending our love and light.
Did you find this episode freeing or empowering? Please read my review. Tickle, 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 boop.
Thank you for spending this sacred time with me on Naturally Empowered Living. If this episode brought you closer to stepping into your energy of alignment, I'd love for you to leave a written review and share how this show has supported your journey. Your feedback truly lights me up and helps others find the space of transformation. And sharing it with someone who might need it spreads the ripple of healing even further. Be sure to check the show notes for ways to connect with me and explore personalized healing sessions and mentorships to deepen your self-awakening journey. Thank you. I appreciate all you are and all you do.